Across Africa, young people are standing up to the abuse of power by mobilizing widespread protests against their respective governments. Some long-time leaders are becoming fearful of the uprisings and are hitting back by stifling freedom of speech and shutting down access to the internet. My colleague Paul Ndiho has more.
In its annual report, Freedom House, an independent watchdog group dedicated to the freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and democracy around the world, says democracy is in retreat in 2019. John Tamin, the director of Africa programs at Freedom House, appearing on VOA's Straight Talk Africa, says Angola and Ethiopia are expressing a commitment to much needed reforms.
The picture for Africa is a mixed one. There are some concerning countries, and I think we're going to talk about those. But I also do want to point out that there are some real good stories coming out of the continent this last year, in two countries in particular, Ethiopia and also Angola.
Zimbabwe's status improved from not free to partly free category because of the 2018 presidential election, though flawed, granted a degree of legitimacy to the rule of President Emerson Mnangagwa, as young people advocate for democratic values, self-determination, and freedoms in Sudan. The determined push led to the recent ouster of former leader Omar al-Bashir. Despite some gains, several of the continent's aging authoritarian leaders continue to cling on to power. In Cameroon, President Paul Biya, now in office for 36 years, was re-elected after presiding over elections in 2018 that were marred by allegations of fraud and low voter turnout. In Uganda, long-time leader President Yoweri Museveni's regime in office for 32 years oversaw the removal of a presidential age cap from the constitution, allowing him to run for a sixth term in 2021. He has also sought to curb dissent by arresting opposition leaders Dr. Kizza Besigye and pop star turned politician Bobi Wine. The rights group Internet Without Borders says efforts by governments across Africa to deliberately sever online access to silence dissent over various issues is on the rise.
It's worrying because it's not just an internet shutdown. It's a triggering of more serious human rights violations.
In its 2019 Press Freedom Report, the right of freedom of expression and free media remains in jeopardy in Burundi. In March, Burundian authorities charged 3 schoolgirls with defacing a picture of President Pierre Nkurunziza. In another development, that Voice of America and the British Broadcasting Corporation are both barred from broadcasting in Burundi. In March, Burundi's media regulator, the National Communications Council, announced that withdrawn the operating license for the BBC and renewed its suspension of the VOA. In Rwanda, censorship and self-censorship is the norm rather than the exception. Rwanda's Supreme Court last week repealed a law that banned the publication of political cartoons, while upholding another that punishes any person who insults or defames the President of the Republic. Breaking this law could land the person in prison for at least 5 years. In South Africa, however, people are optimistic about their press freedom.
To be free also means we must exercise not just our right but our responsibility to wake up and elect leaders.
Ghanaian journalist Eugene Salam Owusu says perhaps without a free place, there would be no democracy in Ghana.
It is owing to this absolute press freedom in Ghana that the country has been touted over the years as the beacon of democracy and stability in Africa.
Freedom House has ranked the Central African Republic, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Equatorial Guinea, and Eritrea among the worst performing countries in 2019. Paul Ndiho, VOA News.